writer, a blogger, a radio show host, a mom of two beautiful girls. Kristi Gustafson Barlette joins us for InfluenceHER. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It is such a pleasure to see you again and to connect through InfluenceHER. We want to dive right in because we have such a limited time and there's so much to get to. Talking a little bit about how you got your start. You're a journalist at heart. You went to Ithaca College.
I went to Ithaca. I studied journalism with a concentration in broadcasting and actually to do television, but I decided that I liked writing. I would focus on print. I applied all over the world to everywhere that spoke English, and I actually got an offer from the Times Union, which is pretty much in my hometown, so that's how I ended up there. And I've been there for just about 20 years.
You have started this 20 Things You Don't Know About Me, which has been very popular in the capital region. You dive into news personalities, executives, community leaders. What has been one of your most interesting interviews thus far?
So I would say one of my favorites was actually Kumi Tucker, and she's on WMIT Channel 13. I think because sometimes you think you maybe know somebody because you've watched them or heard them or even followed them if you're a business owner, and then you get to know all these little bits. And I liked hers because she had humor, but she also had some serious things, and she had childhood and adulthood, and it did really well. People really liked it, and I liked it that it had a nice blend.
Going back to the 20 things, what was the concept behind that, and how did you come up with that?
So it started, you mentioned I do the radio. I was with Fly 92. I'm doing it as a sort of a contributor. The two morning hosts were switching from Fly 92 to WGNA, and I thought, you know what could be a fun feature would be just to kind of introduce them with 20 things. It was meant to be a one-time feature. Well, 2 times, do Brian, do Kristi, and then actually do Jess. It blew up when I did that, and I thought, well, forget just doing Brian, Kristi, and Jess. I'll now do lots of people in the capital region. And that was 2.5 years ago, so now I've done more 100 and something of them and focused on people from age 2 to, I want to say, in their 80s.
You've been pretty career-driven. How has motherhood changed your life?
I always say it's impossible to be excellent at both at any given time, because if I think I'm hitting it out of the park with my job, I feel like my family is sort of sacrificing as a result, and I feel like if I'm having a great family day and really doing things with my family, then my job is suffering. You know, my kids would say, Mommy, you're always working, and sometimes I feel like with work, I'm always being a parent, so I think it's impossible to do both perfectly at any given time. But I do think you can find a balance where each one is done perfectly at some point, even if it's only for a couple of minutes.
Do you do your best work in the morning? We were taking a look at some of your social media handles, and it says that you are a morning person.
I'm a morning person. I'm up at 5 a.m. almost every day. I've never set an alarm. So yes, I do my best work in the morning. I like to see what everybody's talking about in the morning, because my tagline is what's trending in your life and in mine. So I see what you talked about overnight. I see what you're talking about in the morning, and then I write about that.
You are pretty vocal on social media. I'm sure this is a hot topic. You're pretty vocal, and sometimes, you know, you get some backlash from viewers, listeners. How do you handle that?
So I would say one of the hardest ones was there was a longtime restaurant here about a year ago. It was shutting down. And I probably made a poor choice in the headline by saying good riddance to this particular place. And it had been here for a while, and people really liked it, and they had memories there. It wasn't just the food, it was, I've been going there every year for graduation, you know, with my kids' graduations or after their ballet recitals. And I never get defensive, but sometimes I will come back and say, you know what, I made the wrong choice, because I think that's important. I don't always think I'm wrong. Sometimes I stand by my position and stand by my belief.
What would you say to those people who believe that newspapers and print journalism is dying?
So, I mean, the numbers would say things have changed. It's evolved tremendously. I know, like I said, I've been in the industry for about 20 years. I want to say about 12 years ago, my grandfather said to me, Kristi, what is your 5-year plan and what is your 10-year plan? I was so annoyed and so appalled that he would ask this question. I thought, well, he doesn't know. You know, he's retired. He never worked in media. He has no idea. And now I look back and I think, oh, Grandpa was so right. What was my plan, or what is my plan? And I think my plan has always been to evolve and change and not dig my heels in.
What advice would you give to millennials or even Generation Zs now who are starting out and looking to enter the field of journalism?
So I would actually say the number one thing is to take a coding class, because I think that's the one thing. When I was in college, coding wasn't, I mean, people coded, but it wasn't something you paired with journalism. And I have a very, very basic knowledge of coding only because of the blog. I mean, I'm talking as simplistic as you can get. But if I had a better understanding, I wouldn't have to say, go to the web department or go to people and say, how do I fix this? How do I change it? And coding also opens the door to so many things. So let's say you want to transition from journalism, or you want to transition to a different element of journalism, a different department even. When you have that coding experience, I think it's huge.
Switch gears a little bit, but still along the same lines, talking about Just Kristi website, what would you say to somebody that passes you by and says, oh, that's just Kristi?
Well, I would actually say thank you, because it means that my branding has worked. You know, my handle for pretty much all my social media is Just Kristi. My maiden name is Gustafson, my married name is Barlette. Both of those last names are hard to pronounce, and they are even harder to spell. So I always thought, well, Kristi, there is a few ways to spell it, but just keep it that. And also I think that it's not too, it's not so defining. It means that I could branch out. Like, I'm just Kristi, and some days I'm serious, some days I'm opinionated, some days I'm sad, and that's just Kristi.
What do you like most about WGNA in the mornings?
I like the chemistry with the team. I do that just once a week on Thursday mornings, and it's fun. People say that Brian, Cody, and I argue like we're a married couple who actually like one another. But that may be because we only, spend 5 minutes together a week. We're not actually in person, but it's 5 minutes of content or contact. But so I like that. I like the fast-paced nature. I like that you never know what you're going to get, and I like that it's really natural. I don't mind if you pick on me or tease me or disagree with me. So I think that creates a fun banter, because as long as you can take it back. If you can accept it, I can take it, and I think that's the fun thing about it. And I love live, because you don't know what's going to happen, and it can be scary, but it can also be awesome.
How would you sum up your professional career thus far?
Evolving, I guess, if I had to choose one word. I started at the Times Union literally sorting mail, not just how you say the cliche of I sorted mail. I sorted mail, I filed photos, and I wrote every ridiculous story that no one wanted to write. Like, one day I wrote a story on what is the most annoying, biggest pothole in the capital region. It was in Troy on Hoosick Street.
I believe that.
20 years later, my sister still makes fun of me, but I said it was because I was willing to take anything, any story, no matter what the topic, even if I knew nothing about it. Like, I hated circuses, hated them, I still don't care for them. But I covered and wrote about the circus because there was an opportunity. And I knew if I ever wanted to do something in addition to sorting mail, I needed to accept every opportunity. And then I had my first byline, and now I've had thousands of bylines. So
that's a good piece of advice too for young professionals as well. What is next for you?
I don't know. I say about how my job is evolving. People have mentioned to me about doing a podcast at some point. I had never thought of that personally, and so I don't know if that's something I would do.
That would be great.
But I like the multimedia element of journalism. I love to write. That's my passion, no doubt. But I also like the radio. I've liked some web video hosting. Obviously, I love the blogging and the social media interaction. So I think you kind of look at it and think, oh, there's an opportunity, and that works not only professionally but personally, because that obviously affects a lot of my decisions in life. And then that kind of moves me forward into what could be next.
Kristi, we certainly appreciate your time. We are not finished yet, though. We do have what we call is the Baker's Dozen, and it's rapid fire questions, 13 in total, where we ask you the question and you give us a 1 or 2 word answer. So we will begin.
Okay.
And the first is, what would be the first top 20 thing we don't know about you?
I really don't know. I know that's bad, but I'd have to think about it. I'm sorry.
That's an honest answer. What was your very first byline?
I know that. It was a story on New Year's Eve and how the fashions for New Year's Eve.
Love it. What's your go-to at work, a pen or a pencil or keyboard?
Keyboard, absolutely. I can type faster than I can write.
Most interesting headline you've read or written this week?
I don't know.
How would you rate your golfing skills?
Oh my gosh, I have an embarrassing handicap but an impressive swing.
Love it. Girl after my own heart. If you could be on one reality show, what would it be?
Dancing with the Stars. Why did that even take me time? I'm an addict.
I wouldn't be able to think of that one. For or against pumpkin spice latte?
Against. I hate coffee and I do not like anything pumpkin.
Your go-to guilty pleasure dessert?
Chocolate cashew clusters.
And you love cheese. What is your favorite type?
The sharpest cheddar money can buy.
Best or worst purchase you've ever made?
A PC laptop.
Person you keep track of the most on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook?
Oh, I can't tell you that.
Would you rather copy and paste in real life or undo in real life?
Undo.
And this one comes from our last interviewee, Lisa Elovich, with One with Life Tequila. How do you keep energy level with all that you have going on, being a professional and being a mom? How do you keep your energy level up?
I fake it a lot because I think if anything you can kind of look ahead and say, you know what, I could do 10 more minutes or 1 more hour or 2 more hours because I can see the end. So it's a lot of faking it because I'm often very tired.
You also get one question for our next guest. And so what would that be?
If you could be a tree, what kind of tree would you be?
Love that one. That is like an off-the-wall question, but I love it.
I was asked that once in a job interview, and I still haven't come up with a good answer 15 years later.
Kristi Gustafson Barlette, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.